Hello folks, this is Kevin from Ring and Body, and I've got a few questions on the blog that need answering. Turns out that there are some people still struggling with the wrist pain they get during push-ups and weight-bearing exercise. And what's interesting about the people that I've been hearing from is that they are largely musicians. Guitar players, banjo players, piano players, and they're coming to me saying that they're trying the techniques we've discussed in the blog and it's still not really working. And so I want to address their concerns specifically today. It might help a lot of you. In both cases, piano and guitar-related instruments, what you end up having is a situation where the wrist has to be flexed deeply, and then the fingers also have to be doing a lot of movement. But what's interesting, and I want you to try this with me at home, if you flex your wrist down all the way and then ask your fingers to follow through on that action, you'll find that the last two fingers, pinky and ring finger, will do that easily. But the first two don't do that so easily. As a matter of fact, if you force it, it could hurt, so don't. This is by design. The fingers of the hand have specialized tasks, right? It's not all just one structure. It's several structures built to do many different things. The thumb is all for manipulation. The last two fingers are for medium power, sustained grip. The first two fingers are for either short bursts of power or for manipulation along with the thumb. I'm not a pianist or a guitar player, so I can't comment on the technique for the musician to prevent these issues. But what I can give you is some movements for relieving the pain symptoms that people are getting. The first thing has to do with this thing we just discussed about grip, about which fingers do grip. And the short answer is using the last two fingers exclusively for grip as a way of letting the first two calm down and to take kind of a restful position when they're not needed. They heal faster and they'll recover from tense situations. So, see what that looks like. I'm going to use my own backpack here. If I were going to walk down the street carrying my backpack, I would loop my final two fingers through that space there and only carry it with them. And that could be down by my side, all the way here. By the way, I'm going to keep these fingers free. This is a much better use of my energy and a much better use of the structures of my hand. And that could even be up to a very heavy weight. If I try to loosen up my two fingers here, and then I pull down the backpack, it will actually tend to make my fingers start to curl more, rather than curl less. If I just kind of let go and pull, these fingers just automatically curl up. That same thing does not happen with the first two, and in fact it takes a lot more energy to keep them in this position. So, that's the one thing. If you're having the wrist pain, the kind of nervy pain that comes from always having to have your wrist bent in this position, I want you to practice carrying some stuff with just the last two fingers. That's number one. Number two is a little variation on bicep curls. I know we don't think of bicep curls as being terribly restorative, but as it turns out, if you follow the geometry of the joints very specifically, you can do a lot of good. With this, what we do with this one is you get a small object. For our purposes, I'll use a little highlighter. I'm going to wrap it up in my last two fingers, and then I'm going to do a bicep curl that, instead of going straight up like we are accustomed to, is going to follow the rotational geometry of the elbow joint. So when I curl, I'm going to keep my first two fingers and my thumb very relaxed. I'm going to grip pretty strong on my highlighter, and I'm going to pull it right to the center of my body. I roll down and out, and then I roll up. So I'm not pulling straight toward the shoulder, I'm pulling toward the center. You can see how there's this kind of spiral action, this pronation and supination it's called in my elbow joint. This is quite restorative. And because it's unweighted, there's no strain here. I'm keeping these and this very, very relaxed. They're just kind of hanging out whatever position they want to be in, and I'm keeping a light to moderate grip on my small object. You'll also notice that in this geometry, I've got a kink in my wrist, and my wrist is dorsiflexed, right? So I'm not here. That would be the opposite of what we want, right? Here. The part that's actually touching my chest is the back of my wrist, right? Not my hand, right? Wrist. So down, curl, boom. And that's going to give the tissues all across the back of the hand here a chance to behave a little bit more concentrically, to not feel like they're always loading so much or pulling so far. Give those two things a try as a warm-up or kind of instead of weight-bearing exercise for a little while, and then come back at it and let me know how it goes. Good luck.